एक और जहां मुमकिन है, 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 जहां फसलें सबकी साझी हो, जहां खुशियां सबकी साझी हो, जहां गमों को बांटा जाता हो, इंसाफ को जांचा जाता हो.
Good afternoon and welcome to Speaking Truth to Empire on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. My name is Dan Yassen and I'm a local peace and justice activist. Jerry Bill is at the controls. We are currently in our 2013 Winter Fund Drive. Our basic membership is $50. We need more new members. Only 1 in 10 listeners is a member. We want more new members. Minimum membership is $25. Please call 1-800-439-5732 or go online and pledge securely at kpfa.org or www.kfcf.org. Today is the third Wednesday of the month. Every third Wednesday from 3 to 3:30 p.m., I interview authors, scholars, bloggers, and activists who help us look at our world through the prism of American imperialism. On the show, we talk about U.S. policies, both foreign and domestic, and the actions of the U.S. government, big corporations, and the mainstream media. These actions have severe consequences for the people in the United States and in other countries. To create a better, humane, and a compassionate world, we must first understand what is being done in our name, and we must always be willing to stand up, speak out, and speak truth to empire. Today we have Devon DB on telephone with us. Hello, Devon.
Hello, Dan. How are you today?
I'm doing very well. Devon DB, that is DEVON, letter D, letter B, is 21 years old, researcher and writer, currently attending Fairleigh Dickinson University, majoring in political science with a minor in African American studies. He blogs at www.whataboutpeace.blogspot.com, which posts his writing and research. Devon began writing about politics when he was 19 and has written numerous articles on www.globalresearch.ca. He writes about foreign policy, economic matters, and political happenings. Most notably, he authored the 3-part series entitled America and Empire in Decline, in which he analyzed U.S. foreign policy from the 1990s to the current Obama administration. Devon, let's start with what imperialism is, and then we'll move on to how American empire works, and finally we'll talk about the decline of American empire. Tell us, what is imperialism?
Okay, first of all, I need to say thank you for having me on. It comes to the topic of imperialism. I would like to look at it from a historical sense, first off, because we usually think of imperialism as countries attacking and invading foreign lands and taking over. And while that is true and that does have historical precedence, we need to realize that there are other forms of imperialism, most notably given the topic of your radio show when you talk about U.S. imperialism. What people say and what I mean by when I say U.S. imperialism, I'm talking about the U.S. empire in the sense that it is a military empire. This can be seen by the fact that we have nearly 1,000 military bases around the world, by the fact that we have military commands that, since the addition of AFRICOM, cover literally the entire planet. So we essentially have turned the entire planet into a battlefield. We have Cyber Command, which has turned cyberspace into a battlefield. So when I talk about the American empire, I'm talking about the America's foreign policy and its use of its military might to go and achieve the objectives of that foreign policy.
Well, Devon, tell us how U.S. expanded its empire in the post-World War II era.
Okay, in the post-World War II era, it was mainly the U.S. versus the Soviet Union. However, the U.S. was engaged in a number of coups and destabilization campaigns. One that your listeners would probably know about is that in Chile in 1973, Chile, where President Salvador Allende, a socialist, was elected. However, he was quickly overthrown in a CIA-backed coup, and installed was General Pinochet, who committed mass war crimes. However, going more recent history, specifically the 1990s, after the Soviet Union fell, the U.S. saw it as a time to go and expand, to go into Eastern Europe, the Middle East, further, go into Asia and essentially become the world hegemon. This can be most notably seen in the Project for the New American Century, that think tank, which issued a document in which they went and espoused this type of thinking, where they wanted America to be the global hegemon. And as we can see, with people like Dick Cheney and Donald Rumsfeld, who were linked to the Project for the New American Century, were in the Bush administration, how they went and further those ideas and put those ideas from just on paper to in reality.
Well, let's move on to Arab Spring. I like your take on the Arab Spring. Tell us what role the U.S. played in Tunisia and Egypt.
Okay, in regards to Tunisia and Egypt, the U.S. played a very important role. The U.S. had been pretty friendly toward the Tunisian regime until the Arab Spring. However, after the rebellion occurred with Mohamed Bouazizi going to set himself on fire, which started the revolution, you then saw the U.S. trying to go and work with the new regime to go and kind of control the outcome. And in Egypt, it was even more interesting, where you had a situation where we had been backing Hosni Mubarak, the dictator, for the past 30 years, backing his dictatorship and being complicit in the oppression of the Egyptian population. However, we quickly switched our tune to, now Mubarak has to go, he has to leave, and we went and essentially funded both sides. We were backing Hosni Mubarak and the Egyptian military, which still has major ties to us, by the way, and we were also backing lots of Egyptian civil society, such as the April 6th movement. So overall, we were once again fighting to repress people and repress democracy in the Middle East and North African region.
You wrote about a couple of very good articles on one was on neo-colonialism, and then the article that was that I liked very much was America's internal colonialism. tell our audience, what is neo-colonialism and your idea about internal colonialism.
Gladly. When it comes to neo-colonialism, hold on. Sorry about that. When it comes to neo-colonialism, it's essentially a system where now instead of focusing on the physical control of a country, there's now a focus on the economic control. And that's very important to note because if you don't have economic control, you don't have physical control of your country in a sense. An example of this is look at many of the countries, unfortunately, in Africa who find themselves in this unfortunate situation where they are, politically speaking, they are liberated. However, economically, they have massive debt, which they owe to the IMF and the World Bank, and they have to submit to these massive austerity measures, which allow Western corporations to come in and exploit their resources, which is horrendous for the people there. Example of this is in Jamaica in the 1980s, where they were in trying economic times, and they accepted an IMF loan, and actually they ended up being worse off after they accepted the IMF loan than beforehand. In regards to internal colonialism, once again, we need to look at it from a historical sense, where people regard colonialism as going in, once again, attacking a country and actually staying there, settling, and taking its resources for the benefit of the so-called mother country. However, this can be done not just externally, but internally. And I use the United States as an example. There are some differences internally, of course, because in the United States, the internal colonialism is much more class-based. Actually, two examples of this internal colonialism in the United States is the recent, arguably ongoing economic situation that occurred with the banks and how they were bailed out. And so that's essentially taking the people's wealth and using it to their own benefit. You had a bailout of large amounts of banks, and, the rhetoric was, oh, well, we have to bail them out because they're so important, and, they're going to go and they're going to use that money, to get over their economic problems right now, but then they're going to go and they're going to create jobs. As we can see, that's proved completely and totally untrue. In fact, there were actually no actual changes to the system under which the economic collapse occurred. So we can now only predict that there will be an even bigger, greater problem in the future. And however, this doesn't just occur on an economic level. This is an environmental level as well. You have the use by companies of mountaintop mining removal, which is horrible to the environment. It pollutes the water, among other things. You have that same with fracking as well. And it's all used for the benefit of corporations. You can even go so far as to go and look at factory farming, where due to these factory farms, you have not only the pollution of water, but also a decrease in biodiversity, and you have an increase in the use of genetically modified organisms, where pesticides, insecticides, and the like sprayed on them, which then goes into your body, and once again, it damages the environment. So you have the United States itself, in a way, being colonized, or like I said, it's a class-based colonization, where you have the upper classes going and colonizing the country at the expense of the poor, middle, and lower classes.
Okay, you're listening to Speaking Truth to Empire on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. And we are speaking with Devon DB, a researcher and a blogger. Devon, you wrote a great article on NGOs, especially you mentioned couple of three NGOs there, National Endowment for Democracy. Tell us how NGOs are being used by American empire all over the world.
Okay. Well, first I would like to say that when I'm talking about NGOs, I'm just not talking about any NGOs, because there are a lot of NGOs, such as, for example, Doctors Without Borders, that do a lot of great work. However, there are other NGOs that are tools of the United States foreign policy. For example, being the National Endowment for Democracy. Now, it's stated that their main goal is the spread of democracy around the world. However, you can look at their economics, how they get their money, their finances, and you can see how that is completely untrue, how they have been getting money directly from the U.S. government for years now, only for decades, and this is done only because they are being used to promote U.S. foreign policy around the world. And another example being which the National Endowment of Democracy is connected to, Freedom House. They have gone and are used in the same manner to promote U.S. foreign interests around the world. An example with National Endowment for Democracy really is the founder of it. He's gone and said that he's gone and said that the founder of the National Endowment for Democracy has pretty much gone and said that they're essentially taking over for the CIA. You know, what they've done is what the CIA used to do, because the Endowment for Democracy was established after it came out during the Reagan era, that the CIA was involved in overthrowing governments and coups, and so the U.S. establishment had to find a better way to go about doing this. So they went and decided to use NGOs like the National Endowment for Democracy, and they've used further in, I think it was in 2007, for example, if memory serves me correctly, in 2007, where the head of USAID went and told several NGOs that yeah, your work is important, but it's also important that your work be seen as being directly connected to the work of the United States, as to be seen as an extent of what the United States is doing. So you have that, and finally you have Amnesty International, where you have Susan. I think her name is Susan Knowles, if memory serves me correctly. Where she was appointed head of Amnesty International, and she herself has connections to the State Department. And in December of 2011, they rather unwittingly or knowingly played into the ongoing propaganda war against Syria, when on Democracy Now!, one of the researchers involved in a report done on Syria stated that no one had been to Syria. That they got most of their information from secondhand sources and people who had been in Syria. The problem with this, however, is that how do you know that those sources aren't biased, that they don't have an agenda to push? How can you go and say what's going on with any serious accuracy, any real credibility if you don't have anyone there. So, so while NGOs can do a lot of gun rules, you really need to do some research into them and look into their history and who they're funded by, mainly, to really see if they are if they're worthy of being supported or not.
Okay, Devon, you did a great analysis of U.S. foreign policy in your very well-researched articles, America and Empire in Decline. We got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Use that time to describe us. How do you feel that American empire is in decline?
I also think that the American empire is in decline mainly because of its economics. Like I mentioned, the bailouts of the banks, but really it goes further than that, because just 1 or 2 years ago you had the big debt debacle where the U.S. ended up having its credit rating.
Devon, we are having trouble hearing you.
Oh, well, sorry about that. In 1 or 2 years ago, you had the debt debacle where you had a U.S. Credit rating being downgraded. More recently, in Congress, mainly with Republicans, you have them, you have Republicans and Democrats in Congress having a major fight over what should be done about our massive debt and our massive deficit. And the main problem is that you cannot maintain a military empire if you are in this crushing debt, if no one will lend you money. So I think that's the main problem for the American empire today and why it's declining. It's mainly because of its economic woes. You can even see that because now we're going to be arguing very soon over whether or not sequestration, these massive budget cuts should occur. So I'll say that yes, the American empire definitely is in decline.
Okay, you went through what's going on in those articles until now, even drone strikes and Afghanistan. Just tell us more about how is that connected to the decline in the American empire?
Well, drone strikes specifically, I would say, note to a decline of the American empire in a moral sense, in the sense of morals. Many of these drone strikes done in Afghanistan, Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia have killed innocent children, innocent people, and specifically in Pakistan, they've done double taps, they're called, where they will go strike a target, then come back several hours later, strike it again, many times hit first responders and family members. And what this results in is the chances of the family members of the dead becoming terrorists themselves or becoming terrorist sympathizers increases dramatically. And so with that, you have a moral decline of the U.S. empire abroad. And at home, the Obama administration has recently released a legal memo in which they argue justification under which they can go and assassinate U.S. citizens. And let's not get into the fact they've already assassinated 2 American citizens, Anwar al-Awlaki and his son, both of whom were, legally speaking, U.S. citizens during their times of deaths, and thus entitled to due process. And so we see that that moral decline, not only abroad, but coming home as well.
Well, Devon, thank you so much for being my guest on the show, and because of the fund drive, we have to cut it short so I can pitch for the fund drive, and I will announce again that Devon is a researcher and blogger. He blogs at aboutpeace.blogspot.com, and you can find most of his articles at globalresearch.ca. Thank you so much, Devon.
Thank you for having me.
You have been listening to Speaking Truth to Empire on 88.1 KFCF Free Speech Radio for Central California. We were speaking with Devon DB, a researcher and blogger. As you know that we are currently in our 2013 Winter Fund Drive, and we need more new members. We want more new members. A basic membership is $50. Only 1 in 10 listener is a member. So please call and become a member. Minimum membership is $25. Call 1-800-439-5732 or go online to kpfa.org or kfcf.org. Your contributions to KPFA and KFCF are tax deductible. KPFA has been bringing progressive shows for over 63 years. Where else you will hear shows like Democracy Now!, Flashpoints, and in the morning mix and Upfront that you can hear on KPFA. Locally, there are many shows that you get to hear. Down in the Valley, Ideas on Edge, Valley Black Talk, Keeping Real with Dr. Gene Kennedy, and this show is Speaking Truth to Empire that I bring to you every third Wednesday. And Stir It Up at the time on the other Wednesdays is on. So the show like the one that we just did, talking to young and upcoming researcher and blogger Devon DB, and I have interviewed people like Chris Hedges, Maria Benjamin, Cindy Sheehan, David Swanson, Paul Craig Roberts, Bill Blum, Steve Landman, and where else would you hear shows like this? Not on the commercial radio station, only on listener-supported kpfa.org or KPFA or KFCF. Please call 1-800-439-5732 or go online on kpfa.org or www.kfcf.org. Your membership is what keeps us going. It keeps our bills, keeps us paying our bills on time, and then we keep on bringing you wonderful shows all the time. As I said, the basic membership is $50 and the minimum membership is $25, but an occasional $100, $200, $500, or $1,000 is truly appreciated, and every dollar matters. We do a very good job making a difference in this world to bring you shows that are not heard on any other station. I will appreciate a call from our listener at 1-800-439-5732. Again, 1-800-439-5732. Or you can pledge securely online at kpfa.org or www.kfcf.org. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
एक और जहां मुमकिन है, 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 जहां फसलें सबकी साझी हो, जहां खुशियां सबकी साझी हो, जहां गमों को